righty, everybody. Today on the Patterson Report, we have a very, very, very special edition, special topic. It's the thing that everybody is really curious about. So today we're going to spend the entire 40-minute episode going over the Sixers bench options at forward. We're going to start with Johnny Broom. No, of course, please don't leave. We're not doing that shit. It's the trade deadline. So obviously we are talking about the Phillies moves over the last, let's say 24 hours. And we're going to start off on a high note because the city of Philadelphia has, for the first time since, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, I'm probably going to say the first time since Ken Giles, has a true ninth inning guy. Not a platoon, not anything else, not a put him in the sixth when shit gets sideways. A ninth inning guy with a sick intro who throws 103 and has a devastating splitter. The Phillies made their move. Dave Dombrowski probably made his signature trade as the Phillies GM thus far. Goes out and gets Joan Duran, 27-year-old closer out of Minnesota. Like I said, 27 and 2.5 years of team control left on the deal, which is the big part. So Ryan, when that came down, what were you feeling?
I was scared, if I'm being honest. Originally, before the return package came out, I was scared that I was gonna see Andrew Painter, because that was the reports all day. It was Andrew Painter or nothing. It's not gonna happen if you don't get Painter. The Twins, whatever happened to them at where we are today, it's just, I think it was a good deal. After the return came in, confidence just rose in Dave Dombrowski immensely, because Mick Abel, he recouped all his value, and I wish him the best. But he was never really going to crack the rotation with what the Phillies have now and, their future. No. Who knows what's going to happen with Ranger? He's probably going to leave, but Painter's probably going to take his spot. Then you have Wheeler, Nola, Sanchez, Luzardo next year. So it was pretty crowded anyway. So I love the move. Like, if we're just rating on separate moves, I give this one an A. Mm-hmm. I mean, you needed that response to the Mets, and the Mets had a great deadline as well. But
yeah, we'll get into some of the moves around the NL. But I think you're right. I mean, there are some people getting bent out of shape about the fact that we had to get rid of Eduardo Tait catching. Look, was he a hell of a prospect? Absolutely. We seem to have lost Ryan here. There we go.
No, my background was bothering me. I need to fix it.
No, you're good. So I was saying, people were kind of complaining that we lost Tait. But look, he's an 18-year-old single A catcher. Could he be sensational? Absolutely. The bat looks like it's there. But he's not a great defensive catcher. I cannot stress enough how he is 18 years old. And, all these prospects, you can predict, you can guess, you can hope, but they're not a sure thing. And the reality of the situation was, by the time he was able to help the Phillies, the immediate window would have come and gone. So those are the type of guys. That's why you draft well. That's why you develop well. Those are the type of guys you use as pieces to go out and get a Duran when the window is now. Mick Abel, can't say enough good things about him. I mean, you think of where we would be a year ago right now. He was essentially worthless on the trade market. He was a former first rounder, absolutely, but he fell out of the top 100. He was hurt. He wasn't pitching well. So to what he became this year, a centerpiece of a major blockbuster trade, huge shout out to Mick Abel for getting us Duran. But I'm with you. I think it's a slam dunk. I think you make it every single time. As soon as Dave was presented with a deal that didn't include Painter, probably Painter, Crawford, Miller would be the big three. I think you take that immediately and just deal with the fallout, if there is any, and there shouldn't be any.
I agree. And then, looking at this in hindsight, you look at what the Padres gave for Mason Miller. They gave up their whole farm system today, which we'll talk about them later. They're going to be a problem. But you look at it in retrospect to other deals, and I'm perfectly fine with it. 2.5 years of team control. He's going to be that back end guy for a while. So I love this move.
Yeah, and look, did it cost us our 4 and 6 prospect? It did. Again, cannot stress enough how Eduardo's 18, and Abel was never going to crack the rotation anyway.
I don't think Eduardo's going to catch at the next level. I think he's going to be a DH first baseman.
He's going to have to. The defense isn't there. But like you said, when we look at the Padres deal, it's almost. I'm not going to say it's a fleece because it's not. I think it's a fair deal. I think if you're Minnesota, you're really happy with the haul. I think Abel starts right away. But if you're the Phillies, you do that deal every single time because and we're going to get to this in a little bit. I want to jump the gun, but there is an arms race quite literally developing in your division, where the Mets all of a sudden loaded back end, and the Padres are absolutely loaded as well. So this is a move they really needed to make. And, when you look now at this new Phillies bullpen, I have two thoughts. One is a better sense of what we have, and I feel more comfortable knowing that if our starters can go 6, and most of them do, you're able to turn the ball over to a combination of Robertson, Strom, Kirk, and then Duran in the 9th. You feel a lot better about that than you did last week. But I'm also tempted by what could have been if Jose would have just been okay with being fat. I mean, could you imagine the 8-9 combo or the Jose in fire situations, but having 2 guys that throw north of 100, one with a great sinker, the other one with a crushing splitter. The thought of what could have been is hard to ignore.
Yeah, it definitely is, but you never know. Dave might not have made this trade
if he had Jose.
Yeah, if he had Jose, like you never know. In a perfect world, yeah, he would have made the trade, but it's tough to say if he actually would have went through with it. I think he ultimately would have in the end, but what are you gonna do? You just gotta work with what you're given, and obviously it hurts now even more that they didn't resign Hoffman or Estevez, but
it's a this season problem. I mean, next year Alvarado is back, Kerkering's back, Strom's back, Duran's back. I mean, we talk so often about how this is the year, and we're going to focus on this year. But the reason you move your 4 and 6 prospect is because Duran's not a rental. I mean, that 2.5 years of team control is enormous, and he sets up as the cornerstone of your bullpen for the twilight of this initial window. But outside of him, because even Rob, who loves a platoon, seems to have signed off on Duran in the 9th alone. How would you, let's say you have a starter go 6. How are you handling your bullpen at that point?
Well, look, first off, I'm not going to believe it till I see it with Rob. Because
he could
put him in the 7th. I mean, in the regular season, I don't know what you want to do with Alvarado. That's the big question here. Do you want to just use him as much as you can to, keep the bullpen fresh for October, or do you want to have this bullpen develop chemistry in the regular season? It's really a tough call they're going to have coming up here. Because
I think
this
is just me. I think you use them to eat innings. I mean, everybody but Kerkering is a pro in that bullpen, and Kerkering's getting more mature by the day. If I had to take anybody's reps, I would probably give Kerkering or Strom a breather because they've been worked hard all year. Robertson's been sitting on his ass. He'll be fresh. And Duran's been strictly a 9th inning guy. So I would work Jose into that triumvirate of Alvarado, Strom, Kerkering, probably in the 8th, and let those guys get a breather because they've been the bullpen for most of this season.
Yeah, they have. And I mean, it'd be nice if they could go 7, 8, 9 with Kerkering, Strom, and Duran, but you got to mix Robertson in there somewhere. And I hope he's decent coming off of this long layoff. I don't know if it's going to be fully there for him. We're paying him a lot of money for what he's pitching. I think it's like 15 something. If it was the salary is prorated.
Well, yeah. So I forget how that works. I think he only counts 5 million against
5 or 6.
Yeah, against the cap, but cash it's 15 prorated. Yeah, so it's a lot more cash than it is cap,
which is nice, but still,
Oh yeah, it's expensive, but I mean, I would do that deal over and over again too because he didn't cost you a single prospect. And yes, look, is he older for sure? But he was a good Philly the last time he was here. A lot of people forget that because I don't know what we expected him to be. He was a low 3 ERA reliever when he was a Philly. He did his job, and then when he was a Texan, he was sensational. I think he was mid 2s. So this isn't a guy that we're trying to like reclaim or hope that he finds something he once had in yesteryear. The last time everyone saw him, he was a good reliever.
It's just tough to count on that. I wish it was better off with the bullpen, and I'm happy with the move that Dave made, but there's some part of me that just doesn't trust this bullpen.
Well, it's because you have guys. I mean, we've seen guys fall apart. I mean, when Strom's right, he's really, really good. He was an all-star, I believe, at one point, or a fringe all-star last year. Kerkering, the fastball's great. When he has sweeper command, he's as good as it gets. Now, his command can abandon him at times. I do know what you're saying. But it's, and I think Robertson immediately becomes your 4th best reliever. I like him better than Tanner Banks, although Banks has pitched better as of late. Is it an ironclad bullpen? No, but I mean, I would say you have 3 guys who have really, really good stuff when they're right. You just got to hope that they're right. And somebody who's not flashy but tried and true in David Robertson. I feel a whole lot better about it than I did 3 days ago, that's for sure.
It's hard to disagree on that one. Like, I feel like this energy of the podcast is going to take a turn real soon. I feel it coming, but you got to give props where it's due. But at the same time, the bullpen is a lot better. But then you look at San Diego's bullpen after they had Mason Miller, and you're starting to look around, and you have the Dodgers who have all these guys that they're trying to get back into form, and then you have the Mets who made a couple big acquisitions as well.
Yeah, Tyler Rogers is the real deal. Ryan Helsley, I think, is a little bit overhyped as a move. We all remember what the Phillies did to him in St. Louis when he was quote unquote untouchable, never blown all these other accolades. I think he's good. I think the idea that, oh my God, they got Ryan Helsley, however will we hit them, is a little bit far-fetched.
That's what I'm asking about the Padres, but I watched Mason Miller get hit off of Max Kepler for the game tying home run? I forget how long ago that was.
When Miller gets hit, he gets barreled up. That's his
problem.
Yeah,
it's quite the phenomenon, but San Diego has a tough bullpen. We'll see what happens with them. The Mets, a couple good adds as well. The Dodgers, I thought the Dodgers was going to do more.
Yeah, me too. I was surprised. I mean, they got off of Dustin May.
They got a top 5 prospect in Boston's system for Dustin. I couldn't believe that.
Yeah, I mean, you do that Dustin May's he's a good player, but you do that every single time for the Dodgers because you're so loaded anyway. I mean, they have someone to replace him already. Before we move on to today's deal, there's been a lot of talk of stabilizing the bullpen from within when we get to the playoffs. Obviously, it looks like this team is headed to possibly. Well, we'll get to the Mets later. But this team's going to have to play a short series one way or the other, whether it be a 3 or a 5. When that rotation shortens, how are you handling things? Being that we don't know what Noel's going to be when we get back, and we unfortunately do know for at least this season what Luzardo is.
Are you asking me what I would do, or are you asking what I think Rob is going to do? That because there is 2 different answers to this question, and
there is.
You know exactly where I'm going with this. So if we want to talk it out, because you know exactly what I'm trying to say.
We'll go through both scenarios. Because if I'm hearing you correctly, and I think that we both agree on this, Rob doesn't have the stones, the heart, whatever it is, to keep Nola off of that playoff roster. So regardless of how he's pitching, come hell or high water, Nola's probably going to pitch a playoff game. And I don't think that you and I would necessarily have him do that.
Not at all.
Now, look, in imagination land where everything's rainbows and unicorns, Aaron Nola comes back halfway through August refreshed and starts cooking. Because let's get one thing. I want to make one thing clear in my thought process. The best case scenario for this Phillies team is if Aaron Nola comes back, looks right, and can start a playoff game.
Absolutely.
Because that allows you to send your human Swiss Army knife in Ranger Suarez back to the pen, where he can pitch the 5th through the 8th and it not be new for him. I mean, remember, he entered the league. He was a starter, then a closer, then full-time starter, then playoff bullpen. This guy's pitched in every inning 1 through 9 at this point. If you have to send a starter to the pen, it's in your best interest for it to be Ranger. The problem with that is either Luzardo or Nola need to get their head out of their ass and become a playoff starting pitcher in the next 8 weeks.
It's a tough ask.
It's a big ask.
You got to play it by year, but at the same time, Ranger's been so good that he's kind of earned that start, but at the same time, it's so tough. Rob's going to have his hands full. I mean, game 1, it's Wheeler. Game 2, it's Sanchez. I think you could lock that in stone now.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going to happen no matter what. No matter if Nola comes back with, his stuff or, even if he doesn't, you could lock those in game 1, game 2, righty, lefty.
Yeah.
But then it gets interesting because Luzardo still has that thing where he's pitching out of the stretch and I don't want him to come in the middle of an inning because it's going to lead to a disaster.
He needs to start an inning
clean, and it's just so rough. I don't know, but it's probably going to be those 3 with Nola and then Sanchez and Wheeler. It's probably going to be those 3 starters, and Rangers going to go to the bullpen, and then you leave Luzardo off the roster, which is tough. But
I'm kind of with you, unfortunately. I mean. And Luzardo is an interesting thought experiment because everybody who watches baseball knows the second he gets into the stretch, we are in deep shit. However, he's that good in the windup where he can go entire starts and barely enter the stretch. I mean, his start against Chicago, he went 6, gave up 1 hit, and he dazzled. So that's the thing. His stuff. If he can stay in the windup, his stuff plays out of the bullpen. He sees a lineup one time, which is probably as much as you would want a lineup to see Luzardo with his tipping issues, and then get him the hell out of there. But then what do you do if it's a leadoff double? Then he's a guaranteed 2-3 runs. So, I mean, he is as boom or bust of manager call as I can remember in a pitcher, and Rob's playoff tenure is going to kind of hinge on it.
It's going to be really interesting when that playoff roster comes out for every series because I don't know. I mean, I know what I would do, and I don't know if it's even the right choice because, like you said, Ranger in the bullpen is he's just that guy. There's no other way to describe him. I forget exactly where he is on postseason ERA, but it is very, very low. I'm going to look at that right now, but
I don't remember. I mean, last year he threw well, but that year that we made the run to the World Series year and the following year, he was in Sandy Koufax conversations.
Ridiculous.
Now it might have gone up a tad because I mean the Mets relatively got to him last year. I think it was 3/5 or something like that. But he was still in ludicrous conversations. He's probably top 5 still in baseball ERA in the playoffs. I
got to look. I don't know if they've put on older players here, but right now StatMuse is saying he's 1. So with a 1.49. And Wheeler's in second with 2.23. So it's kind of ridiculous. I got to see if I'm getting this right though.
Yeah, I'm trying to see who has the best postseason ERA. Yeah, Ranger Suarez is 0.95. Sandy Koufax, Suarez is 0.94. Sandy Koufax is 0.95.
That's ridiculous.
Now, granted, Koufax pitched double the innings, but still, I mean, that's what we're talking about, and it's so hard to leave this. I'm going to get clipped on this. The second coming of Sandy Koufax off of the starting rotation.
Oh man, it's tough. I mean,
but on the flip side, Nola's never come out of the pen, and Luzardo's never come out of the pen.
Yeah, I don't want them to do that. I mean, he's basically like playoff Madison Bumgarner would kind of be a good way to
Yeah,
describe it.
you can put him in
I feel like
any
that's a
inning.
fair comp for Ranger Suarez because that man was insane in the playoffs with those Giants runs.
Yeah, I mean, there'd be days he'd start Monday and then have to come in and close Tuesday,
Absolutely ridiculous.
which is why his career was so short, unfortunately.
Yeah, at least he got his payday though. That's all that matters. But
Yeah,
it's so tough with like these decisions because the bullpen. I mean, do you leave these guys off and risk Luzardo? There's so many scenarios that Rob could go through that, like, I don't know. I'm scared.
It's tough because when Luzardo's good, he was in Cy Young conversations. Like when he is good and he's out of the windup, he is as good as any ace in baseball. The problem is, as soon as he gets out of the windup, how quickly everything falls apart. So he'll be a huge conversation to keep an eye on going forward. But getting out of the pen and onto Dave's, last day deadline deal. He came out red hot with Duran and then relatively fell flat on his face on Thursday. We were looking for a power bat in the middle of the lineup that played the outfield. I myself, you can speak for yourself in a second, I would have settled for Quan in a heartbeat. No, he's not a power bat, but by God, does he get on base. He's fast. He would set the table for Trey right behind him. I would have sacrificed power for Quan, absolutely. We didn't get him either. You could have talked me into, what the hell's his name? Brendan something from St. Louis.
Donovan?
Yeah, could have talked me into Brendan Donovan. Would have probably preferred that one. Luis Robert stunningly didn't happen. I'm very surprised.
They want it too much.
For the player that he is. So we ended up with Harrison Bader, who, if we had gotten Harrison Bader when he was a Cardinal, I think you and I would have been saying, you know what, Dave, one hell of a job on the deadline. I mean, you got, a difference maker in the outfield and you got a great closer. Unfortunately, we have Harrison Bader, who's been bouncing around the MLB for the better part of 4 seasons now. And we got a moderate upgrade in the outfield. He's better than Max Kepler. On base percentage is decent. It's pretty good. But he's a shell of who he was. And he is what Dave decided to hitch his offensive wagon to for the remainder of the year. And I just don't think it's enough.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you. I want to leave my final thought on Luzardo. If it's against the Mets or the Padres in the playoff series, I kind of leave him off the roster. If it's against the Cubs, I start to think about it with their lefties. But that's the last I'll mention that.
Okay.
So Harrison Bader, I looked into it a little bit. I got the chance today because I had some free time. He's actually been really good as a defender.
Oh, so no question there.
He's been fantastic. So he'll allow, Rob to be flexible in the outfield. But here's the thing that really grinded my gears. It was after all the dust settled, no more trades. It was over. So Dave Dombrowski, they do the interview after the trade deadline, says he believes Justin Crawford is ready to play the major league level, but he needs to play. And Dave says he's not sure they have the capability to play him full time at this time. What are we doing?
Yeah, who is
blocking this man?
His growth? Yes.
I know Cassie takes up a spot in right. I understand that. He's there. I understand Marsh has been playing better ball recently. But
it's still probably a Marsh Bader platoon in center. Let's just say that.
I think he's gonna play Marsh in left. That's what it sounds like. It sounds like it's gonna be Marsh, Bader, Cassie. That's what it sounds like to me, honestly.
I think where I stand on Brandon Marsh. I like Brandon Marsh a lot. He's played a lot better in June and July. If you look at those 2 months of the sample size, he's hitting damn near 300. That said, he should not be the reason that Justin Crawford can't crack the big league level. Neither should Harrison Bader. I think if you platoon those two guys in center, Bader hits lefties very well, which is a noted hole in Marsh's game. Very easy to platoon those guys righty-lefty in center. And if you want to give Crawford some run, give him left for the month of August. See what he's got. If he falls flat on his face, then send him back down. Let him rebuild his confidence. But at least see what you got in the kid. Now, I will say I think he's being a little bit overhyped. His average looks phenomenal down in AAA. His ground ball rate is atrocious.
It's bad. It's very high, but still, at the same time, the Bader acquisition made sense if you were going to call Crawford up, and it just doesn't sound like he's going to do that. So the Bader move makes a whole lot less sense now. Now they say they're not going to call Crawford up. If they do that, they give him left. It makes sense. He struggles. Okay, you move March to left. You have Bader in center, and Rojas can come back up for a bench role. But at least see what you have. They've been so notorious for just not calling up these guys. I mean, I know Painter was injured and you have that, but dude, something needs to change.
And that's the other thing. I mean, I'm watching everybody crash out over it on Twitter now. All the hits, the good fight, absolutely hammered, Philly baseball, Phillies tailgate, like all the classics. And it is kind of a weird thought. And it's like, one, why is Kepler still on the roster? Or, if Kepler figures into the picture the rest of the way and he's part of the reason that Crawford can't get playing time, that is organizational malpractice to the highest degree. So he should be gone by morning. And look, here's the thing. We rushed Johan Rojas up to the MLB, and I think it did him a severe disservice. So I can see why the Phillies aren't in a hurry to do that with Crawford. That said, he's not Rojas. Rojas came up from Double-A straight to the bigs, couldn't hit worth a damn, and was just kind of left to defend on his own. Crawford's done his time in the system. He's gotten better at every step. He's hitting the ball in Triple-A on the ground a little bit too much, but there's no reason. You're purposely stunting his growth. You're not protecting him at this point.
Yeah, at least for Painter, they had the reasoning he was injured, and of course, the starting rotation is fantastic right now. But you have a clear problem in the outfield that needs to be addressed, and you have a top 3 prospect in your farm system that is basically ready to come up, and you're not calling him up because of Matt Kepler.
Yeah, that's what I don't get.
I don't understand either. I mean, sure, Steven Kwan would have been nice. Sure, Ramon Laureano would have been nice as well. He went to San Diego with Ryan O'Hearn. I wanted him. He was my top target. But he's been having a great season. Like, it might be a little bit of overperformance though. A little nervous about that, but still.
You cut out for a second.
Oh, I was saying Ramon Laureano.
Oh yeah.
Was my preferred target. My Wi-Fi is just terrible and always.
No, you're good.
But anyway, it's just one of those things where I wish one more bat. It would have been, just another corner outfield guy, even in like the Bader tier where you didn't have to give up too much. It just would have made more sense if you're not going to call up Crawford, and I don't get it. The Phillies confused me. The plan's obvious, but they just can't see it. I don't know.
I think with the deadline, they confused me a little bit too, because you look at teams like, San Diego took a swing this week. They said, you know what, we think, and the NL is brutal too. So they looked at that and they said, you know what, we still think we got a shot at this. And they pushed everything in. Now, granted, they depleted the farm system. I'm not sure I wanted Dave to do that. But that they acted as a team that was going to make a run right now. The Phillies are a team where your home run leader is a free agent. You're probably this, if we're being honest and we remove feelings from this, the best catcher your franchise has had since you and I have been alive is a free agent. And your second or third best starter, and it's the best playoff pitcher in baseball, is also a free agent. And the Phillies are acting like a team that has time, which is so bizarre to me. If there was a team that get to go out there and get 2 bats from Baltimore, like Laureano and O'Hearn, it was absolutely Philadelphia. And San Diego was more aggressive. You could argue the Mets were more aggressive.
Mm-hmm. You could argue there was a lot of teams more aggressive, and it didn't cost San Diego, it did for Mason Miller, but not for the Baltimore guys. It didn't cost them, too much. It was 4th and 6th prospects, which who knows if that was after the re-ranking or before it, or who, I don't know. But you just needed to make moves, and you're absolutely right. And this is what I've been ranting about in my group chats all day. They don't have time. They don't. It's this year. It feels like the window. If you don't resign Schwarber, you don't resign Realmuto, it's over. You're done. Throw in the towel. The Dodgers are going to keep winning. The Mets are going to keep going for it. The Padres are going to keep going for it. And you're just going to be a second-tier team that's not ever going to sniff a World Series. It's just facts. That Diamondbacks year still makes me angry. You talk about it all the time. It was the year. That was your opportunity to win it. I don't know if this year is going to be it. You want to be optimistic. The pitching staff's great, but this feels like the last year, and it's definitely the window is slamming shut. You see that little gap in my window over there? That's about how big the window opening is. I got to move the wrong way. That's how big the window's open right now. The window behind me.
So with all that said, and I'll give mine first, and I'll tell you kind of where I'm coming from with this, because it would be easy based on our last conversation and how frustrated I am with the lack of aggressiveness to just slam Dave and say it's a D or whatever. I do think this was a B deadline out of Dave Dombrowski. I think an A would have been one more bat for me. Harrison Bader was a little bit underwhelming, but I also want to give him some credit because teams were asking a ludicrous amount for some of these guys. Now, do we both agree that he probably misread Baltimore's situation? Yeah. I think we have the tools to go get Laureano and not deplete the farm system. We should have done that. But I'm proud of him for not going, depleting the bank for Mason Miller. I don't think it would have been a smart move for our organization. I'm glad he didn't give in to Chicago and overpay for Luis Robert, who could be great, but is hitting 213 this year. I'm glad they didn't pay the premium for for O'Neal Cruz or whatever Pittsburgh was asking for them. Same with Bednar looking for a starter. I do think Dave was dealt a really difficult hand where he was either going to deplete the team for a rental, which I don't think is smart, or have to be a little bit conservative, which as a fan I don't like. So for me, it's a solid B grade. It definitely could have been better, but I do understand that the market this year I thought was pretty unrealistic.
See, I was just ranting. I'm fresh off a rant, and I'm going to give it a B-.
That's fair.
The minus is for what you just said, misjudging the whole Baltimore situation, because those guys would have added a little bit of pop to our lineup, especially Laureano, which would have been our main target. But I'm happy you didn't overpay for Steven Kwan. I saw that asking price. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And Steven Kwan's not going to, change the path of your franchise. He's not going to be one of those franchise game changers who, if one of them became available, I'd have been okay sending Painter out for. That's my thing, because you got to compete, and the window is, like I said, very much closing. But there was none of those guys out there. No one with team control. I mean, Mason Miller's nice and all that, but he's a closer, and if the bats go cold, how are you going to get to Mason Miller?
Exactly.
I mean, Duran kind of poses that same question, but the asking price was just so much less that I'm okay with it. So I'm happy, like you said, he didn't deal with Chicago. They won it too much, because even the Mets turned them away. So it wasn't just the Phillies, not wanting to negotiate with them. Steven Kwan, the asking price for San Diego, included their top prospect, who was, I believe, number 3 overall. So
so for us, that's probably Miller plus.
Yeah, so it was absolutely ridiculous asking price for all these guys. I'm happy with what Dave did. Like I said, the minus is for misjudging Baltimore. But it's still a good deadline.
Yeah, that would have if we were sitting here today and we have Laureano slotted into that outfield spot, I'm clearing my schedule in October. That would have given me a little more confidence. But I think he did a good job with a challenging market. My laptop here is about to die. But I don't want to talk about the whole playoff picture because I just don't have the time, unfortunately. I got about 5 minutes before this thing kicks the bucket.
Oh, man.
So I want to get your thought on which NL team at this deadline took the biggest leap in your eyes.
It's got to be the Padres. I think that it's the easy answer.
Yeah.
They did so much. I mean, we'll see what happens with Mason Miller. I think he's going to be a starter next season.
Yeah, I think
You
they're going
don't
to try
give
to stretch him.
you don't give that for a closer, but I think it's the Padres, and then I'd say the Mets over the Phillies just because they did a little more. I like the bullpen for the Phillies more, but they got two guys, and if Helsley pulls it back together, I think it's better than what the Phillies got. But I love Duran, and then I'll go Phillies third.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the Mets had a similar deadline that we did. Although Tyler Phillips, right? No, Tyler Rogers.
Tyler Rogers.
Tyler Phillips.
Submariner.
Yeah. I think he is a markedly better reliever than David Robertson, and David Robertson would be our second bullpen addition to theirs. I mean, they added Helsley and Rogers. We added Robertson and Duran. I think Duran clears Helsley, but I think there's a sizable gap between Rogers and Robertson, unfortunately. And then they also added what you and I both have said is a pretty mediocre outfielder. I mean, Cedric Mullins, at one point, perennial all-star in Baltimore. Now, less so. I think he's Bader-esque. You can say maybe the upside might be a tad higher, but I think we added our outfield additions are a push. I think that's what I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, just because they added another outfielder. If they would have added a starter, it probably would have pushed them over the top, which I'm glad they didn't. And we could close on that because it looks like you're running out of time here.
Yeah, you see the screen get darker?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to end the stream here. We will catch you all next Thursday. Everything's normal. So see you all next Thursday here on the Passing Report. I'm Brandon. That's Ryan. Go Phils.